Bobbity bop ba. Looks like we're streaming. Talking about socks and NESticles. All right. It's Thursday, March 29th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And tonight on Geek Nights, we are talking about socks for your feet. Not socks proxies.
Stop that obvious joke.
Is a joke about a socks proxy actually an obvious joke? 'Cause I
was also thinking it.
but I feel like the average listener of Geek Nights is too young to have ever encountered that.
I was also thinking it.
Like-
Therefore,
Yeah, but we're the same age and we come from the same like generation of computer. Like socks isn't really used anymore except in like archaic enterprise nonsense.
just saying that I was also thinking this.
Yep. In fact, one of my first jobs was maintaining a socks proxy that ran on OS2 Warp to connect this SNA network with the internal Ethernet network in IBM.
Mm-hmm.
That was, shall we say, ancient times.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's Thursday Geek Nights. It's the lounge. We can talk about anything.
No, it's not.
It's not the lounge?
No.
You can't talk about anything?
No, that's it. Going home.
But, yeah, PAX is coming up real soon. We're doing kind of a
You
weird...
just skipping to the meta moment right now.
No, I'm just saying it means we're doing sort of like a weird abbreviated schedule, and I'm sort of preoccupied with the fact that PAX is coming, and I'm pretty hyped for it,
I'm
more so.
buying new furniture.
Oh, yeah, man, it's interesting to be in the position
I'm
where
getting rid of a bunch of crap in my apartment that's taking up too much room. The furniture needs to go.
we're old enough to where you telling us, oh, I'm buying furniture, and like the details are like, ooh, are you getting a chase? Like, what are you going to put? What kind of furniture are you getting? That was a real exciting conversation for...
Because when I moved into the apartment, I just got IKEA furniture as fast as possible. And that was the cheapest and the most convenient without planning or designing or anything. And now it's like, okay, the couch is broken. I need new furniture. Now I can actually think about this and get the best furniture.
Furniture ain't cheap.
No, not
Unless
good,
you
good
want-
furniture.
Unless you want the worst furniture.
Or, IKEA is slightly less cheap. It's still way cheap compared to real furniture.
Yep.
But it doesn't last that long.
Nope. And the problem is, it's very easy to find furniture that I like, that looks good, that would be 100% perfect. Usually the things that are perfect are, it's not even like, oh, it's a few $1,000s. It's like, yeah, that's $8,000, fucker.
Yep. Well, also, the other problem is, like, if I had a big old empty house, it'd be really easy to get furniture. But when you have a
Yep.
tiny ass apartment, suddenly everything is difficult.
Yep, like when I was a kid, we had a giant living room and a giant family room. So the
You go to the
couch-
furniture store and you see this big layout. You're like, oh, this is perfect. And it's
Yep,
like,
you just
oh,
take that whole layout.
This would be terrific if I had an enormous room that was bigger
Yep.
than my apartment times 5.
Yeah, the Midwestern, like, large house, you have the giant lazy boy somewhere, and then you got, like, the big sectional couch that takes up, like, it would fill this entire room.
I don't think you could fit it in this room.
You could probably cut it up and fit all the pieces in this room.
Sure. It would be just the room would just be one big cushion.
So maybe that's my strategy, just cushion the floors.
Okay.
So you got any news?
I do have a news. So I don't know if this is really news. It was almost thing of the day, but whatever. So someone wrote and investigated and got this article about the history of NESticle. And if you don't know, back in the day, like late 90s, right?
I will never get over that icon.
When I first discovered what an emulator was and realized I could play console games on my computer and download them for free and not have to pay money and get cartridges and just use my graphics gamepad and not, the real controllers, which you can now use the real controllers thanks to USB, which didn't really exist too much then. It only existed then a little bit. But yeah. Someone went and researched the history of NESticle, who made it, where it came from, when they made it, how they made it, all the drama that happened in the scene around it, why there was a pair of testicles as the icon, all this great. And
NESticle it's interesting because not only was it like the first widespread use emulator that like nerds would find and use who weren't like deep into the scene, it was really like fully featured.
No, this emulator basically invented all those features.
Yeah.
And it talk about like what happened to NESticle, what happened to the guy.
I ended up using SNES 9X for SNES.
You read this article, you'll
Oh, I just saw SNES 9X is
and
hanging out in here.
You will find out why you ended up using SNES 9X.
Oh, is the SNES?
And ZSNES that came later. And
Yep.
I didn't realize that Genesis was made by the same guy who made NESticle. Stuff like that. So this is like it's like weird to read an article about history that I lived.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be like if there was an article that described the inner workings of the Magic the Gathering scene during the revised era.
It's that's like what this is. So if you're just someone who takes emulators for granted, or someone who also lived through this. And doesn't, because I lived through this, but I didn't know all these details about what was going on.
No, I literally, like,
because I wasn't in the scene. I was just some kid who was downloading ROMs.
Yeah, a friend of mine on a BBS was like, yo, you can play NES games on a computer. And I was like, you're lying. And then they were like, no, check this out. And then I installed NESticle. And
right.
it was like that moment when I first heard an MP3 and I realized what that meant for the future. The first time I started Mario 1 in an emulator, I just paused it and sat there thinking, wow, this changes everything.
Yep.
And most of the NES games I played on the emulator were games I already owned cartridges for. It was just way more convenient to play on the computer.
Yep.
Also, save states meant I beat a lot of games that I never beat on a real console.
Yep.
Like Wizards and Warriors games, Wizards and Warriors fucking 3. There was no way I was going to beat that game
I
in
like
one
Wizards
go.
and Warriors 2 with all the elemental bosses.
Oh, yeah, 2 was pretty good. I like 2.
I had a strategy guide for that.
I
It's
actually
one of
went
those
back.
times where you're a kid, you buy a strategy guide and all the strategies for games you don't have.
Yep. Which
was
just
in-
made me want to buy those games.
It was in there.
But actually, I was watching the world records for Wizards and Warriors 1, and I remember I played that again recently on an emulator. And
Hard as balls.
yeah, but it's also pretty fun. Like, I feel like I could beat Wizards and Warriors 1.
I like the aesthetic of it with Wizards and Warriors. Well, the spiders and the treasure chests and the Kniggets and the wizards.
Yeah, I'd like to see a remake of that kind of game.
Sure.
Like Shovel Knight style, like take it and make it a little bit more accessible and less bullshit. But no, I have not read this article, and I'm going to read it because I'm really curious about all these details that were completely opaque to me as a child.
Well, I mean, I think the main takeaway from this, right, is like, there's all this scene drama, and even today, every scene has drama, right?
Yep.
Any fandom, whatever.
Well, like, look,
And-
the
but in
anime
the
scene's going crazy right now about some, like, YouTube shouty man that I have no idea.
Right.
And I'm kind of in that scene.
But in the long run, all that scene drama doesn't matter and goes away, and no one cares. Everyone just laughs about it if they even remember it, right?
Well, I guess it
And
turns
what
into,
really
like-
and this is, you can see the things that last, that really matter is, goddamn, we can all play NES games.
Yup. But I guess, like, which emulator became the one of choice is probably driven by drama that no longer is remembered. Only the result remains. So in some other news, this is actually really relevant to the fact that we're going to PAX. So, you can crack your knuckles, make some noise.
Some people can, some people can't.
Yep, some people can, some people can't. Did you know that to this day, no one actually knows what makes that sound?
What do you mean? It's like your knuckles, right?
Okay. Explain it to me. When I crack my knuckle, what causes that sound specifically?
Well, I've seen this article, so I know the real answer, but this is the answer that a common person would say, so
Yep.
I'm going to pretend to be naive, right?
Yep.
So, you got bones, right?
Yep.
You got muscles holding the bones together.
Well, you got tendons holding the bones together.
It's all the same shit, right?
No, it's not.
You got flesh holding bones together.
Yep, there's human in there.
Otherwise, the bones would just sort of fall apart. Right?
Like the other half of Stone to Flesh, the spell, which
Right.
is really gross if you cast
Like
anything other than a
the
statue.
skeletons that you see in the classroom are held together with screws because without the flesh, the bones don't stay together. Right?
Yep.
And then the flesh moves and the bones are in there, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't move them for a while, the muscles sort of, tighten up or whatever, and the bones get close. They're moving around. So sometimes, you gotta loosen them up. And when you move the muscle, the fleshy bits, Sometimes the bones scrape against each other and go click, click, click.
Nope. Now the reality is,
Now, but I'm
you
saying,
would know.
I know that is incorrect, but isn't that a common sense
It is a common
answer?
sentiment, and the
Yeah.
thing I can say is that
It's a common sense answer.
you would. But the other common sense answer is you would fucking know if your bone was scraping against your bone.
Yeah, I don't know. Really?
Yeah, that's a lot of the problems that runners
Isn't that,
and people get.
Isn't that every joint? Bones are touching bones?
No, actually, the
Like
joint.
a shoulder is in a socket and it moves.
Yeah, there's
It's
a joint.
touching all the
There's a
parts.
joint and tendons and pads and buffers in there. If actual bone is scraping against actual bone, you're in trouble.
So that you're telling me that zero bones in my body make no contact whatsoever with any other bone. There's always just something in between every bone.
There are definitely exceptions to that.
Okay.
But generally, like the bones you're thinking about, there's tendons, there's cartilage.
I mean, like my arm
Cartilage ain't
bone is
bones.
in my shoulder socket moving around.
Yeah, and there's like cartilage around it.
Okay.
There's stuff there.
But it cracks a lot when I move.
The next most common theory is you get bubbles in your joint, and if you
That's partially true.
yeah, well, some people get bubbles.
There's fluids and shit.
Yep, there's fluids and there's bubbles. But the bubbles popping is not what causes the sound. And apparently, this article is fascinating. The reason why it's so hard to answer this question is the same reason why it's actually hard to answer a lot of questions about the human body. There's no way to just video it happening. Like, you can't just make a video x-ray at high enough speed.
You'll see bones. That's it. You'll see bones.
And a lot and you might say, oh, but I can see like the inside of a cell. Yeah, a like dead, died, stabilized cell that was held under a special microscope for a long time.
Yep.
Live video, especially high speed live video of fast events inside of things that you did not kill are almost impossible to get.
And is it even going to work if you're alive or like, you know?
Yep. So, I mean, there's a reason if you get an MRI, you're basically strapped in and can't move at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, this article talks about how the way they figured this out recently, like really recently, was by making mathematical models of what those bubbles would look like and then simulating them and then comparing the sound that the simulated bubbles would make when they were interacting with the rest of these joints and bones to actual recordings of knuckles cracking and looking for matches and all this fancy stuff. The article goes into detail.
It sounds like bones hitting against each other, right?
Yep. So it ain't even bubbles popping.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, at least from this data, which is pretty new, is that it is the cavitation of those bubbles. So the bubbles compress and they expand again, and that makes the sound. They don't pop.
So am I less cracky because I have less gas?
So they don't know any of those other answers.
Okay.
They still don't know
No one
shit about
knows
knuckle
why
crack.
some people can crack like crazy and other people can't?
Seems like they don't know that either.
Wouldn't it just be because I'm less gassy?
It's hard to say. It's also not clear if those gas bubbles have, like, if they're important or not.
Are they have any connection to arthritis or other joint?
That seems to still be no.
problems?
There doesn't seem to be. Now, again, this is just based on my, like, not scientist,
Lots of
not
joint
doctor reading.
problems that people have.
It seems like there is no real correlation between knuckle cracking and any negative outcomes.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep cracking my knuckles because it feels great
Mm-hmm.
and I like the sound.
Yeah, but they can't do it. You know, based on the feeling, we can't figure anything out.
No, I don't think so.
Do
No, I
does
guess-
it feel like gas bubbles are popping when you feel the cracking?
I don't know what it feels like if a gas bubble pops inside of me.
Maybe you do.
I know what it feels like when I'm full of gas in certain specific areas.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't make it sound like that.
No, it doesn't.
If that area of gas made it sound like that, I would be waiting for the ambulance if I wasn't already dead. But this is just sort of a fascinating read. Things that appear to have simple answers or common sense answers very often have a complex and ambiguous answer that is way different from what you think
No, but
makes
my
sense.
Occam's razor, why?
Yeah, Occam's razor doesn't always work, son.
No. I cut you with it.
The reason this is relevant, and I'll say it because a lot of you might not go to PAXs, and you might not have listened to old episodes of Geek Nights. There's a tradition. It doesn't happen at every PAX anymore.
Not
but
since the envelope was invented.
every now and then, someone puts it in the envelope. I feel like I should ask the question in the envelope for a future PAX. But occasionally, at PAXs, in the main theater at the opening ceremonies,
The Q&A.
we'll do a thing where everyone in the audience, so like thousands of people, crack their knuckles at the same time. And you might think that it couldn't possibly be that loud. Because you crack your own knuckles, it's not that
Well, 'cause
loud.
everyone's quiet and trying to listen.
Yeah, but like even if you're in
And
a
it's indoors.
if you're in a giant quiet room and like you crack a knuckle, like in a football stadium, like how loud could it be? But when 1,000 people all crack their knuckles at the same time, it is one of the worst sounds imaginable.
It's not that bad.
It sounds like someone being destroyed by horrible magic. Like what?
It sounds like a whole bunch of people clapping once.
Nah, it sounds more like squicky than that. I imagine it sounds like what I imagined the sound was when a certain character in the 5th season was killed by.
Sounds like a whole bunch of people holding little twigs, and then sort of everyone breaks their twig.
No, but only if the twigs were like meaty and wet. Like it has this wet character to it.
No.
Recordings of it don't really do it justice. You just have to be in the room physically to see what I mean. It's a good time. It always goes the same way. They count down. Everyone cracks their knuckles, and then most of the crowd goes, and then we all shiver, and then we move on.
I don't. I just sort of like, all right.
I don't know. Do you like that sound?
It doesn't bother me.
We should make an album about that sound.
Okay.
So one last little bit of news before we get into the very important main bit. Scott found this article like 14 minutes ago.
And I didn't read it.
I didn't read it either.
Okay, well, there you go.
But the article is essentially about the idea of active travel and how pretty much Americans in particular, but just people in general who live in modern industrialized societies, tend not to travel via their own capability. Like they don't bike or walk anywhere. They drive everywhere. And the article talks basically, from what I skimmed, about how the average person vastly overestimates the time and effort actually required to travel in that manner.
Yeah,
Like
if you never use a car, right?
Yep.
Then you're going to be pretty bad at estimating how long it takes to get somewhere with a car.
Yep.
If you never use a plane, you're not going to be good at so people who don't walk and don't bike don't know how long it takes to get places with cars and bikes.
So they literally don't realize
I mean, with feet and bikes.
things like it only takes 15 minutes to walk to that like bodega that's down the street from your neighborhood. And it's just sort of interesting because we live in New York, which is almost the opposite problem because you pretty much everyone walks because there's no other way to get to places. So
Well, people who can't walk.
yeah, obviously. But I feel like among all the people we know here, the real problem is that most people vastly underestimate how long it takes to walk or take a subway to get somewhere. Like, oh, I'll be there in a half hour when it'll guaranteedly take them at least 45 minutes to walk there. So I don't know. People need to walk and bike more, and we really need to ban cars is the only thing I got to say about this.
Sounds good.
All right. I think I hear an Emily. Whoop. But anyway, things of the day. So I found this YouTube video that was fascinating, and it was just this long video showing a machine that semi-automatically knits socks from the 20s.
Shouldn't this be for the main bit?
So I decided to make this my thing of the day before we decided to do the show on socks. The fact that this is about socks is literally 100% a coincidence.
There is a connection. It is only in Rim's brain, this connection. He's denying it exists.
You know how we decide how to do a Thursday show? So Scott and I will be on GChat. We're at work on Thursday, usually like Thursday afternoon. And one of us will message the other one, show tonight on, ? And then we won't say anything for a while. And what I tend to do is literally look around wherever I happen to be. And if anything I can see gives me an idea for a show, those are the things I suggest. Like, I'll look around and I'll be like,
So you looked around at this YouTube video.
Nope, I looked around and I happened to be wearing green Smartwool socks, despite the fact that I was wearing black dress shoes because I was out of my shitty black socks and I wanted to wear my comfortable socks. So I wore socks I wouldn't normally wear. So I was thinking about my socks all day. And then we were like, oh, let's do a show on socks. And it totally worked. We've never talked about socks before somehow. But anyway, that video is fascinating, but it doesn't explain anything. So I have this other video that's my thing of the day, and it is someone explaining how these machines work. These machines are things that were used like 100 years ago as an early form of mass production. They're way, way faster than hand knitting and way, way slower than the modern machines that make these things. But it is really fascinating to see in detail how this kind of purely mechanical machine driven and run by humans manipulating physical bits, like the complexity of what it's accomplishing is pretty amazing. And this video is like 7 minutes long, and you'll know everything about how this machine works by the end of it. So what do you got?
Oh, what
Is
do I
yours?
got?
Do you have anything sock related?
So there was a news today that they're going to sell a Kirby automaton, which is something just makes sense. If you don't know what an automaton is, it's a cheapo musical instrument of the digital variety. And at the bottom is a ball with a slit in it. Just the only reason the slit is there is because when you squeeze the ball at the bottom, you don't, it's cute that it has the mouth open up, and also as the sound comes out of, and you can sort of, more sound will come out of this.
It's like if you had
opening.
It's like you cut a tennis ball and you can make a little face and make it talk. It's like that.
Right, and then coming out the back is a stick, and it looks like a musical note, right? Because you got a stick with a ball and a little flag at the top. And then you can move your finger up and down the stick, as a little touch-sensitive strip to make the, the sound go wee wee wee, sort of like a slide whistle, but, whatever. And there's no, as far as I know, there's no frets on it, so it's
Nope, it's 100% portamento.
So it's like a violin where you gotta know, or
Yeah.
you gotta feel it out.
Well, it's portamento in the sense that if you naively play it, notes will just slide into each other. You might say they drift into each other. As opposed to,
Yeah, but anyway, so they're coming out with a Kirby themed one, which is obvious. It'll be pink and have Kirby's face at the bottom, and someone's gonna play do 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 do. As soon as they get one, they're gonna play that song.
Drop it like it's hot.
Right.
Drop it like it's hot.
But no one has that yet. I don't think anyone. I think it just announced. But because of this, everyone posted all sorts of automaton videos today.
Now this ain't new. I feel like 7 months ago there was like a big automaton wave.
Probably, but the point is that wave has made a second wave. Like, the roller coaster, the big hill, and then the second the second hill that's still big. That's the second big hill. So here is a video of the best automaton video that I could find.
This is better than what was hitherto my favorite automaton video, which was Ave Maria.
Okay.
This is pretty good. I'm still debating whether or not I should get one. Because in terms of musical complexity...
On the one hand, it is a annoying noise-making device, which is a thing that Rim wants.
Yo, say hello to my harmonicas.
On the other hand...
And a kazoo.
We must not allow, for the sake of all of our sanity and preventing the end of the world and making, gods too angry, we must prevent Rim from having any more annoying noise-making devices.
What I think's going to happen is I might bring one of these to, say, MagFest. And I feel like
that's an appropriate place to have one.
I feel like a lot of other nerds are going to bring the Kirby one specifically to the next MagFest.
Are you going to go to a jam space with your automaton?
I feel like there's going to be an automaton specific jam space event at the next MagFest. This is a prediction. I feel like this is going to happen.
I should make a double automaton.
Ooh.
There's still one face at the bottom, but there's daddy two sticks.
The barrier to entry on playing an automaton, it's like a theremin, but way easier, coupled with a kazoo.
Also, way cheaper. You can just get one of these.
Yep. Like, it costs less to buy one of these than to buy an okay harmonica.
Yeah, and, musical instruments that are real are actually kind of expensive. So.
Yep. Now, I feel like maybe I'll just start playing my harmonica again because that is sufficiently annoying and I already own it.
Sufficiently annoying. He admits his goal is to produce annoying sounds.
Well, because playing my trumpet is too much investment, physically, but playing harmonicas or this kind of thing doesn't really require me to stay in a good physical shape vis-a-vis my lungs and lips and tongue. I can kind of just play them whenever I want. I'll be just as good at them if I don't play them for a month as if I play them every day. My skill level won't change. In the meta moment, the book club book remains Emily Wilson's modern translation of Homer's Odyssey. I'm
still reading it on the pooper in the train, and the Odyssey. It's an epic.
Yep.
It's an Odyssey. It's the Odyssey.
Yeah,
not just an Odyssey.
The word Odyssey, Odysseus.
It makes it seem real big, but it's not so big. This book is going by fast.
Yeah, I told you. I mean, it starts with Telemachus being like, shit.
I'm already book 4 or 5 or something.
Oh, shit, where's my dad? And Athena being like, yo, I'm going to make you a man, and you're going to have a crush on me, but that's not going to matter. And then I'm going to help your dad. And then we're going to kill a whole bunch of people at the end.
Mm-hmm. I'm hanging with King Nestor.
Oh, I didn't remember all the details of King Nestor. I love how he never fucking shuts up. Like Nestor is, it's not my favorite character, but if there was a good movie version of the Odyssey, I feel like he would be the funniest character.
I think we're gonna go check out Menelaus.
Yep, you're gonna go to Menelaus, and then you're gonna cut back to what Odysseus is up to with Calypso, and
being sad, even though he's banging,
yep.
banging the god lady.
I still like the idea that the implication is eventually he's too sad and wants to go home, but he does just go and have sex with her literally every night.
Why
And
wouldn't you?
The opening scene is like, he's like, oh, I want to go home. And she's like, well, you can't. Anyway, it's about 5 p.m., so
I'm
you
like,
coming?
I'm also like the hottest goddess.
Yep. I mean, it's telling when Mercury comes, or Hermes.
Hermes.
Yeah.
Mercury is Roman.
Yeah. When Hermes comes to tell Calypso, yo, you've got to let Odysseus go, even he is like, wow, she is beautiful. Wow, this island is a paradise. Holy shit. I'm impressed, and I literally just came here from Olympus.
Yeah, why doesn't Hermes get it on with Calypso?
I feel like...
Why does Calypso want Odysseus?
I feel
more
like
than-
Calypso doesn't particularly like Hermes or Zeus or really any of them.
Why does she like Odysseus?
They get into that. The same reason Athena and Zeus like Odysseus. Because of all the humans, he's kind of the smartest one. But in quotes, because he's smart the way they like people to be, meaning lying all the time to everyone about everything.
God's just decided he shall be the protagonist, therefore he is.
I mean, the book opens with literally Athena's like, yo, you gonna help Odysseus out? And Zeus is like, oh, right, Odysseus. Yeah, he's pretty cool. I like him. But he pissed off Poseidon. What do you want me to do?
Oh, my boy, Poseidon. What's up? I like how King Nestor, he be sacrificing to Poseidon because he knows.
Because, nobody likes Poseidon.
I do.
No one does.
Scott does.
You avoid pissing Poseidon off.
Yes, because he's awesome.
Yes.
You should avoid pissing Scott off the same way.
Poseidon is awesome.
So don't make annoying noises.
And everyone will say that he is awesome because you don't want to piss him off.
Anyway.
But yes, we will be very soon at the Penny Arcade Expo East in Boston.
Oh
It is 4 days long. We're getting there on Wednesday, and there is official gaming on Wednesday. It's 5 days long. So we will be there, and it's going to be awesome. If you want to find us and play games, we're pretty much going to be in tabletop morning and afternoon every day. Except on Sunday morning, we're going to be doing the final full version of our 40 Tabletop Games You Must Play panel at 10:30 a.m. in the Arachnid Theater.
Also, if you're listening to this right now, it's probably too late, but Anime Boston that we used to go to but no longer go to is like tomorrow.
And I do want to say...
Or today for most of you.
Us not going to Anime Boston for a few years should not convince you not to go, because...
If you're near it and you like anime... Go to it. There's good
Anime
shit
Boston is the best anime con on the Eastern Seaboard. Like, there isn't a better
one. I don't know how
one.
Otakon is these days. I haven't
Yeah,
been.
I mean, I hear things. It's hard to say. It's hard to tell what these
It's
cons are like.
definitely past its peak is the thing, so
Yep.
it's like, I don't know.
But having been to much more recent Anime Bostons, it's got everything you want out of an anime
Yeah,
con.
if
Like,
you
it
want to
is-
go to AnimeCon, it's worth going to.
Like, the panels are
and
good.
Anime NYC is too new for me to judge.
Yep. But you heard me say it. The panels at Anime Boston, there are good panels there. I barely even say that about PAX.
There's also a real good Japanese guest there.
Yeah. Like, if you want to see legit guests.
Good
Anime-
Artist Alley there.
Yeah. And there's great food, like, right there. Like, Anime Boston's got a lot going on. The only reason we were not there is that we go to between 4 and 6 PAXs a year and MagFest. And it's hard to go to more than 10 conventions a year. Like,
Also, we got to be doing some anime judging for the spring, whatever season is next, real soon.
yep, so be on the lookout for our GeekNights Presents Utena show, which is continuing. The GeekNights Judges Anime by its cover, which is continuing. All that stuff is coming.
Yeah, there's a new season. We got to judge.
And if you want to actually find us and see us at PAX East, it's actually really hard to find us in tabletop because East is an enormous convention. It's the biggest PAX. And
Physically.
yes.
But it's at least it's all one building. At West, it's like you could be in any building. You don't know where someone is.
well, you know where we are. There's only 2 buildings with tabletop in them.
I'm just saying at East, it's one building. You
East,
can-
we say, oh, I'm in tabletop. That literally doesn't help.
Yeah, you can find them.
You can't find us. But coming to our panel is the only guaranteed way to find us. Just saying.
Did you schedule the stream and booth?
I did not yet. I will take care of that.
What if it's too late?
It seems like you actually have to do it at con.
Okay, we
Like-
could just do it when we get there.
Yeah, like I'm going to email some people to see if I can do it in advance still. I just haven't yet. But I couldn't find any like sign up for it thing. I didn't look super hard though. I'm going to do all my PAX paperwork and everything tomorrow.
Maybe they contact people to do it and not vice versa.
No, but there's a sign there that's like, hey, do you want to do this? So I'll figure it out.
Ooh, if you go to Tuesday setup, you get lunch.
All right, Tuesday. What? They just announced him apparently. I did not look yet, but Scott said I'm in Maine like I always am. All right.
Oh, I didn't look for Emily. I didn't have a friend.
Oh yeah, I'm more curious where Judith is too.
Judith is with us.
Oh, tabletop?
We're all on tabletop night shift. Me, Amanda,
Nice.
Cold Guy, and Judith.
That'd actually be a good time then.
You should come.
I respect the tabletop. Like I know that's a good enforcer job, but I really, really like doing main
Just
theater.
standing there while there's a concert.
Yeah, because I always want to go to the concerts, but I'm busy, and if I didn't have like a job to do at the concert, I'd probably just be in tabletop. So I get to enjoy the concerts.
I think.
But I have to, instead of looking at the stage, I have to look at the crowd. But I don't need to see what's going on stage. I can hear it just fine. So I just get like this super relaxing, chill evening, hanging out, listening to concerts, and keeping an eye on people in the crowd. And the crowd in
I think
Maine,
one of our listeners is on your shift.
yeah, actually a bunch of our listeners are on my shift. Because actually a lot of GN people, like a lot of our people, are in Maine theater. I've brought them with me bit by bit. Some of them were doing Maine before I even joined Maine. Because they know that's where the hotness is.
It's not where the hotness is.
That's where the hotness is.
No.
I think it's the best department.
Then how come you don't spend any time there when you're on?
No, the enforcer shift is the hotness.
Uh-huh.
Main theater, I don't need to go to as just an attendee. Unless it's Q&A, or Super Mariachi Brothers. Super Mess. Smess. All right, anyway, let's finish the show. Because I'm actually getting hungry.
Me too.
So socks! Let's talk about socks.
You put them on your feet because it's cold.
So there are 2 kinds of socks. Well, there's 3 kinds. There's
A
4.
lot more than 3 kinds.
There's 4A, and there's 5.
There's many kinds.
So 5, Socks 5, is from RFC 1928,
No.
which extends the Socks
So
4
the
protocol.
first thing I gotta say.
Holy shit, Socks 5 supports IPv6.
The first thing I gotta say
Okay, I'm not gonna.
is that if it's warm out and you got sneakers, no socks is maximum comfiness. But the problem.
your feet and your shoes will smell like death forever, permanently.
Yes. That is the only. So that is like the worst. So
There's a second worst there that I have found that if you go barefoot and you do sports, you will get blisters even if you have really comfortable shoes.
also you'll probably get foot funguses.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Same reason why if you never wear underwear, you're gonna have trouble with your jeans, son. Just saying. Just saying.
So, therefore, I have found that in the summer, when it's warm and when I'm wearing sneakers, I have discovered that I prefer the most minimal sock possible.
So it's
sock
funny. I was at work.
that only covers the bottom of the foot and the back, has a little rubbery bit so it stays on at the heel.
The no-shows.
And then when you put your sneaker on, you can't even know that I'm wearing a sock. And then it's basically almost as comfy as not wearing any socks.
So my UX team at work, actually, they were going out to have drinks and hang out to celebrate something today. And they were like, oh, you should come. And I only didn't come because I was coming here to do this. I was like, oh, no, I got to do the show. And they were like, oh, what are you doing the show on? And I was like, socks. The immediate reaction was the conversation we're having. Immediately, they were like, oh, yeah, I'm all about the smart wool. And someone else was like, no, you got to get the no-shows. And everyone took their shoes off, and socks happened. The no-shows are really popular lately. Now-
So the ones I found,
So I guess
when
it's
I
kind of,
researched
why do you care if they show or not?
It's not about the showing.
Okay.
It's about the fact, like I just said, having no sock is maximum comfort. So you're getting as close to no sock as possible.
The minimal sock. That's the same
while
reason I wear toe
also
shoes.
still gaining all the benefits of sock of avoiding the fungus, avoiding the smell, avoiding the.
Yep.
You're basically getting all the benefits of sock with the least amount of sock.
Now, I point out, though,
when it's warm and you don't need the sock to warm your foot, and you're wearing a comfy shoe and such and such.
I do point out that there is a very specific use case between, like, maximum comfort barefoot and you're trying to be as close to that as possible is one thing. But one thing you don't do is endurance sports like running. When you're running, you actually need the sock for a specific thing where barefoot would be objectively worse even if you ignored the fungus and the smell. And the problem is it'll get wet and sweaty and lead to blisters, and like the wetness will be a problem. Good quality socks, even the no-shows, provide the wicking effect to keep your foot nice and dry when you're running like 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It also provides a tiny bit of padding to prevent like chafing. Like you don't want your toes to chafe because when you're just walking somewhere, you're not like rubbing your toe against the front of your shoe. But when you're running, you're rubbing your toe against the shoe because you're hitting the ground hard with every step, and your foot has a lot more movement even if you've tied your shoes
Wouldn't
tight.
your shoe be the wrong size if your toe is hitting the...
No, even if there's buffer in the front, like your foot's gonna move a little bit. You might hit the ground hard. There's no shoe.
Anyway,
is perfect.
So as for the showing part, right? It's, depending on the pants you're wearing and the shoe you're wearing, right? The amount of showing and the style of showing could be cool and or dorky.
Yeah, well,
right?
case in point, I see a lot of people, and it kind of bothers me when people have pants that are a little too short and they're wearing socks that show like a crew sock size, but when they sit down, you see bare leg above a tall sock.
That's me right now
That is bad news.
because I'm sitting down.
But if you show bare leg because you're wearing no-shows, that feels more like that seems more socially acceptable and more
there's
stylish.
like this hipster style that I don't like, where you're wearing like the dress sock with the designs on the side or whatever, like the diamonds and shit.
I'm okay with that. The
It's
Argyle
all-
sock.
It's all colored and shit. But when someone's wearing that,
I like that.
but it doesn't go and the length is wrong, and it's sort of like
Well,
this,
that's it. If the
it's sort of
length is
like this
wrong.
awkward hipster situation.
If that's the problem. If you're wearing the sock that has stuff on it, but there is a gap between the top of the sock and the bottom of your pants, you fucked up, son.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as long as they're properly sized, I think most people, their pants are the wrong size.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this is such a common problem, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms, I guess, the kinds of, so I'll go straight in. I used to, when I was in like RIT, I would buy big old bags of just Hanes cotton socks, like
That's
as
what
many
I bought
as
also.
possible.
I would buy bags of white socks, and
bags of black socks.
And when they I didn't do that. And then when they went bad,
I had to dress up a lot for my work.
when they went bad, I would get rid of them and replace them again.
Yep.
And that was all I did.
But the problem, and the main reason I bought them in bulk was one, I was poor. Like that's a valid reason.
Because I didn't care.
Two, I didn't care. And three, I didn't know better. Like I did not.
Also, even like El Cheapo, generic white socks are way comfy when they're new. It's like, wow, these are great.
Yeah, but as they get old, they become negative comfort.
Yes, they're a little scratchy and stiff.
But I also
They
didn't
don't
really.
stay soft and comfy.
I didn't know, like in high school and even like in the early days of RIT, that there were kinds of socks that were objectively better in structural ways or materials that like I didn't know.
No, I went to the store. There was a bag of white socks, and I was like, hell
And then
yeah.
next to them, I'd see one pair of socks that cost the same as the whole bag.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I did the same thing with underwear and T-shirts in college. One of my main goals in life was to do laundry as few times as possible. So buying more socks meant I could go longer before I had to do a unit of laundry. And then I'd literally take all my socks and wash them all at once and put them right in the dryer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those socks suck, and now I know better. So nowadays, I actually have a bunch of different kinds of socks for different contexts.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, I threw away all my old shitty socks.
I just change them with the weather.
So I do buy black cotton crew socks in bulk still. I have a big old bag, like Hanes equivalent, just black socks. And the reason for that is black nondescript socks are what I like. They're the safest thing to wear at work. Just the way I dress at work. They don't in any way interfere with anything I would wear at work in any context. And I can throw them away as soon as they start to wear out and replace them and never worry about it without wearing out my actually really expensive socks by wearing them every single day. So I have these like shitty socks that I wear when it doesn't matter, and I buy them in bulk. I throw them away when there's even a hint of trouble and just buy them in bulk again. But then I have my running socks. They're not no-shows because actually I have a problem when I run. If I wear the completely minimalist socks that you don't even see, the top of my foot, like my ankle area, like the bottom of the ankle, will interact with the top of my shoe and cause chafing if I run long distances. I need a sock that at least gets above the ankle. So I have ankle socks. They're all smart wool. I buy this one particular smart wool sock that is like the perfect long distance running
sock. See, the thing with Smart Wool is a brand like TM Smart Wool.
You can get anything. You
right?
can get any smart wool equivalent.
Right. It's like, but the actual Smart Wool brand costs a fucking fortune. You can buy, like, for example, when it gets cold, I wear like big fancy wool socks, right? And I bought them in bulk on Amazon, but they're high quality. But the brand is like People socks, but they're the exact same thing as Smart Wool socks.
Like Indeed or whatever makes really good ones too.
Yeah, there's tons of them you can get. They're all pretty great. They're they're really meant for like wearing big boots and hiking in the woods, but they keep your feet so warm and toasty, and they're so nice and comfy. If it's cold out, why not wear them? Why
but also
not
different kinds. So I have Smart Wool socks that are like crew length that I'll wear like if I'm not at work. Like if I'm hanging out on the weekend, I'll wear those kinds of socks with my comfortable shoes. Or like at a PAX. Like those are the best things to wear at a PAX.
Plus you can also just wear them without any shoes if you're in the house or whatever.
Yep, that does wear them out faster,
a slipper, almost.
Yeah, it does wear them out faster though. You're gonna wear out the bottoms.
Yeah, you put your slippers on if you got them, but they're still comfy.
Yep.
You can wear them while you're sleeping to keep your feet warm.
But then when I'm doing shorter runs or like high speed runs, like I'm running a 5K, instead of the Smart Wool ankle socks, I wear the like super minimal. They're basically like spandex no-shows. They're made out of various materials. They're like super sporty. Their sole goal is to protect my foot, wick sweat away. And I wear those for like short runs. And then I have a whole bunch of winter socks that might be Smart Wool or other brands, but those are like the ones that go all the way up my leg. They're like super warm. They're super expensive relative to socks. I only wear them when I have a good reason to, like I'm going skiing, or I'm going to be walking outside in New York a lot on this day that's really cold, or I'm at PAX East because fuck the weather in Boston during PAX East.
My sock drawer actually right now is full of the previous generation of socks I have to get rid of, which I don't wear, right? It's full of the no-showing socks, right?
Yeah,
it's full of the wool. So the big wintry warm socks. I have 2 pairs of socks that are just for bicycling because they're warm, but they are also thinner. Right? I couldn't wear the big thick wool sock in a bicycle shoe.
If it's summer, I wear those no-show minimalist ones on my bike shoes, and if it's cold out, I just wear my Smart Wools.
And then I have I have one dress sock of each color in case there is a dress occasion, which there hardly ever is.
So because of the nature of the dress, like when I wear dress clothes, like formal attire, I tend to do traditional black suits. And I tend to have a slightly longer leg cut on my dress pants on purpose. So I tend to actually use my shitty black socks because no one can tell. Like I do not have proper dress socks currently.
I just have one pair of every, one black, one brown, one blue, one,
I do not have an occasion. I have no formal outfit that would require a non-black dress sock.
I think my suit is blue and my shoe is brown, so they usually use the blue sock, but I can switch it up.
Well, see, usually I'm wearing like a jacket, like I'm wearing like more business casual or like sub formal wear.
The point is, it never hurts to have, right? Just one of each just covers any possible scenario. You don't, because what ends up happening is if you don't have that, there's that like, oh no, I got to go to a thing, and you go to the store and have to buy a sock.
Yep.
I never had to do that because I have one of everything.
I do need a new set of dress socks because the deal with the dress sock is that unlike say the cheapo black socks I have, the dress sock will still look black. Like the color will be good, so no one will notice it. Like someone who pays attention to fashion will notice if they see your shitty sock, but normal people don't. But two, if your dress pants are not perfectly fitted, you need to make sure the dress sock is tall enough to make sure you never show any skin. You cannot show skin with formal dress pants.
Right. The other important thing is that, like, you get a tall sock, you got to make sure it's nice and, tight against your leg.
It can't roll down.
It can't. If it sags or rolls down, you're going to be pulling it up all the time, and that fucking sucks.
Or you're going to give up, and then you're going to see it, like, crunkling around the legs.
It's got to maintain that elasticity. A sock that gets pushed down a whole bunch or falls down is no good.
So I have one more kind of sock, actually, and I did recently. I actually bought a bunch of metal bins, and I filled my sock drawer with them to separate all my kinds of socks so I never have to fumble. Because I got a bunch of different kinds of socks. But, so I have toe socks. They're all minimalist. They're all like...
Oh, for your toe shoe?
Because I got the toe shoe, but actually, toe sock... real comfortable inside of regular shoe.
Well, because, you got something in between your toes.
Yeah.
Right? Scratching that bit in between there where the web is.
Which feels good, which is interesting because, full disclosure, when I was a kid, like elementary school, I had two weird hang-ups. If my sock got wet at any point, it has to go.
Well, okay, so I think everyone has this hang-up. I can't deny, if I'm wearing a wet sock, that is awful. Like, I
was a kid, like, if I was getting dressed for school and I stepped in some water in the bathroom in my sock, I took the sock off, new sock.
Right, but some people, obviously, I don't know anyone who likes a wet sock. I'm sure there's someone, right? But most people, I think, when their sock is wet are like, oh, this is really uncomfortable and awful, right? But there are some people like you and other people I've known where if the sock gets wet, it's beyond awful. Like, they're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever.
I was only like that, however, in elementary school. And nowadays, it's more like, my sock is wet.
For me, I just go and I get rid of it as quickly as possible, but I don't, like, fucking freak out.
But it's more like, even if I'm rushing out the door and I step in some water, I don't replace the sock. I just... this too shall pass, and then I go about my day because it'll dry soon enough. That's the advantage,
but
though. But
then you can get some, then you get stinkies and funguses if you do that.
Oh, well, if it gets that wet, then yeah. If I step in the toilet, of course I'm replacing the sock. If I spill an entire glass of water on my foot. But if you wear the fancy socks, like the sports socks, it doesn't matter if they get wet. They dry immediately.
No, some of them.
The good ones, so one time we went to Anime Boston, right? And I was wearing my toe shoes, and I was wearing some fancy sport wicking socks, like toe socks. I forgot to actually pack socks for the trip. So for 3 days in Boston, I only had one pair of socks. So, and every night when he came in from the con, I took the socks. I just washed them in the sink, with my hands and a tiny bit of soap. And then I just left them out. And they were always dry by morning because they were fancy, modern wicking socks. If those had been cotton socks, I would have been fucked. I would have had to go buy socks. Cotton socks have a lot of problems. You were better off having synthetic, merino wool, or a combination of synthetic and merino wool.
Well, here's the thing about cotton, right? And it counts not just for socks, but for all clothes.
There's an entire Seinfeld episode about this.
Is that cotton clothing is way comfortable and way inexpensive, and it can be way nice, right? But it's only good for sedentary, dry activities.
Yep.
Right? Also good if you're going to get set on fire somehow.
Real good for
firemen wear cotton.
Not pajamas you're going to wear to bed necessarily, but pajamas you walk around the house with.
Right. But any other activity, right? Cotton is not so good. If you're doing anything athletic, right?
If it gets wet, it's not going to dry.
Yeah, you'll melt inside of it.
It doesn't block the wind.
Heat. Right.
It doesn't wick sweat away so much as concentrated in your armpits.
Yeah, it's not it doesn't protect you from the rain. It's like
it turns into sandpaper.
It's basically the worst possible fabric material for actually doing stuff, and the best for lazing about. And most people lays about all the time, and the cotton can work for all their clothes. But if you do any activity whatsoever involving the environment or athleticism, then you want 0% cotton. Cotton is the worst.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it.
So, but yeah, I washed those toe socks. They just dried immediately. But I have a whole bunch of toe socks. There's one real annoying thing about toe socks. left and right matter because they're different. So you can't just have a bin of 30 identical socks and just pull 2 out of it. You got to get a left one and a right one. And for a while, I tried to separate left and right in 2 separate
What
bins.
if one person has long toes and one person has short toes?
That usually doesn't matter because actually I have a freakishly long like middle toe and it just doesn't matter like because they stretch a little bit. No one makes like shitty toe socks really for sports. They're all like fancy, like NEG makes them and like Smartwool, like that kind of stuff. So they just work, like they fit. But I tried separating lefts and rights, and that was not tenable. So what I did instead is every single toe sock I buy is a different color. So every pair is absolutely unique. So I just have to find the pair as opposed to like finding the one with the L on it and then finding the one with the R on it. Or even worse, the shitty brands that don't label them. So you got to dig through and be like, is this a left? Is this a right? Woe betide, you bring 4 left socks on your trip. Granted, actually, my fancy ski socks also have a left and right despite the no toes because they're sort of like, they're set to fit your foot very particularly, but that's sort of a weird edge case. That's like specialty sports equipment more so than sock. But yeah, I guess I didn't think a lot about socks in high school, and I think a lot more about socks now that I'm older. And apparently, on this Wikipedia page, there are specific socks just for flip-flops.
No.
Yeah. No.
Flip-flops, if you should never wear them, but if you do, no socks.
The whole point of a flip-flop is that they are the minimum barrier to entry between barefoot and something on your foot. If you do anything to increase the complexity of that arrangement, you have already ruined the sole reason to wear flip-flops in the first place. The whole point of a flip-flop is you literally want there to be less than a second between not wearing shoes and technically wearing the barest minimum legal definition of shoes.
That's right.
All right, I think we killed enough time with this. Share your sock comments in the forum, like and subscribe.
No, don't.